Hey adventurers, so today is going to be a series check-in video. This is actually, I did one of these about 7 months ago back in September of 2022. I figured now's a good time to do another one. It'll end up being, by the time you're seeing this, it'll end up being about 8 months ago that I last did one. But that's alright, we're gonna do the video now because I have an opportunity to do it now, and some of these things will probably most likely change between the time of me filming this video and the time of you watching it. So really quickly, I'll just go over the series. So I had 3 categories in my previous video. Those were ongoing series to finish before the end of the year, and series I've started, meaning only one book, meaning I was only one book into that series. And anyways, so those are the 3 categories that I had in that last series check-in video. In the ongoing series, I had The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, The Time Quartet by Madeline L'Engle, How to Train Your Dragon by Cressida Cowell, and Redwall by Brian Jakes. These were the series that I was actively trying to make progress in, actively reading more books. The next book in the series was several books into the series already, and yeah, that's just where I was at. Maybe wasn't specifically reading them right then or wanting to finish the series by the end of the year, but that's where I was kind of at. So of those 4 series, The Wheel of Time, The Time Quartet, How to Train Your Dragon, and Redwall, I'm still on book 4 of The Wheel of Time. I am now on book 4 of The Time Quartet. There's more books in The Time Quartet. Anyways, I'll get to this in a second here. I'm on book 6 of How to Train Your Dragon, and then in Redwall, I'm about halfway through the Redwall series. I've reread about half of them, and there's about half, I think I've reread about 10 since I started my reread of the Redwall series. And so that means there's about 12 left that I haven't read yet. So then in the series to finish by the end of the year that I had for last year, I had the D'Artagnan romances by Alexander Dumas. I had Lightbringer by Brent Weeks. I had The Earthsea Cycle by Ursula K. Le Guin, The Giver Quartet by Lois Lowry, and the Lyonesse trilogy by Jack Vance. Of those, I finished the D'Artagnan romances, I finished Earthsea, I finished The Giver Quartet, and I finished Lyonesse. So that's 4 of the 5 series that I had that I wanted to finish by the end of the year, I finished by the end of the year. One of those, which was the Earthsea Cycle. Okay, so Earthsea Cycle and The Giver Quartet. No, that's not true. I did finish. The only one that I didn't finish before the end of the year was The Giver Quartet. And I finished that one. I read it in February, I want to say, maybe March. I think it was March. I read Sun, which is the last book in that series. And then for Lightbringer, I read book 3, and I wanted to read book 4, but then my library got rid of the audiobook for book 4, or lost the contract or whatever. They don't have access to the audiobook anymore. So now I have to try and find another way to read the book, whether I buy the audiobook somewhere or I wait for who knows how long for my library to get another version of it. I don't know what's going to happen, but I am planning on continuing that series. I don't have a way to listen to the audiobook, and that's how I've been reading that series, and I'm not going to change that at the moment because I don't physically have the time to read. So anyways, I'm on book 4 of Lightbringer. As for series I've started but haven't continued on with yet, or whatever it was, the series on that category was Threadlight by Zach Argyle, The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher, Annihilation, or the Southern Reach trilogy by Jeff Vandermeer, Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton, His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman, which is that the series? What the series is called? I think that's what the series is called. Dune by Frank Herbert, The Weaver trilogy by Lindsay Franklin, Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones, and The Ruritanian Romances by, who wrote The Ruritanian Romances? That was by Anthony Hope. That's who wrote them. I haven't continued with Threadlight, His Dark Materials, Dune, The Weaver trilogy, Howl's Moving Castle, or The Ruritanian Romances. Those ones I haven't continued with. I still only read book 1 so that means the other ones that I have continued on with are Dresden Files, Southern Reach, and Jurassic Park. Dresden Files, I am now on book 3, so I've read book 2. I only read 2 books in the series, but still, I've made progress. Southern Reach, I have read all 3 books, and Jurassic Park, my current next audiobook, because I haven't started it. By the time you're watching this video, I'll have finished finished it already, will be The Lost World, which is the sequel to Jurassic Park, and because there's only 2 books in the series, I'll have finished the series at that point. So by the time you're watching this, I'll have finished the Jurassic Park series. So that is catch up from where I was at in September, moving on to now, current, as of May 2023, my ongoing series. So I have those same 3 categories, and I think I have 1 or 2 more categories as well. But I'll just quickly go through them. Some of them are going to be the same, so I won't need to really update you on them. But as for ongoing series, I have, of course, the Redwall series by Brian Jakes. This, as I mentioned, I think I've got about 12 left in the series before I'll have completed the series. Most of them are rereads, probably 9 of those are rereads, 9 or 10. Somewhere between 8 and 10 are rereads, and then there's between 4 and 2 that I have not yet read. I'm going to finish this entire series. The reason why, so I'm reading other series at the same time sometimes. The Heroes of Olympus series is one of the ones that's ongoing, but I've already read it, so I'm not counting it towards this completion. However, because there are books in the Redwall series that I have not read, I am still counting it as in this series, even though most of the books are a reread. So continuing on, Wheel of Time, I'm on book 4, which I am about a third of the way through. Page 304 of 993, so just under a third of the way through the book, and it's just going very slow. I have no desire to pick up the book and physically read it, and so I pick it up and read a couple pages a week. Not very many. I don't make it very far very fast. However, I did finally request the audiobook from my library, so that will hopefully I can get through book 4 and it'll revitalize my interest in the series, and I'll be able to just blow through it and actually want to continue reading. I was really trying not to listen to the audiobooks on this because I didn't want to. I wanted to read the books physically because usually I love books physically more than on audio. So we will see what happens with the audiobook. And I'm several weeks out from getting that. Time Quartet by Madeleine L'Engle. This is, as I mentioned, there's more than 4 books in this series. I have currently read book 1, 2, and 3, and I'm on book 4. I don't know when I'll get back to it. It was just one that I was like, oh, I should read this. This sounds kind of interesting and fun, and I needed an audiobook, and it was available, so I was like, all right, that's a good one. But I don't know when I'll continue with this series. I think there's either 5 or 6 books in this series, and the Time Quartet only has 4. But anyways, that's fine. Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. I have read book 1 and book 2. I have not read book 3 yet, so book 3 is the next one that I'm going to be reading, but because I have continued on past book 1, I'm counting this as an ongoing series. It's another one where I'll just put it in when I feel like it, not necessarily, oh, I really want to read Dresden. I want to read every single book in the series right now. It's just, oh, I need something to read. I don't have an audiobook right now. Oh, this one's available. Perfect timing. So that's what I will do with that. Rune Lords by David Farland. This is a new series since my previous series check-in. I have read books 1 through 5 at this point, and book 6 I will be starting in, let's see, June. June is the next month, and so I'll be starting book 6 in June, and this has been a great series. I've been loving reading this series. Every single book has been phenomenal. Book 1 was great. Books 2, 3 were really solid. Book 4 was a great ending to the first arc, and then book 5 came and just blew me away with how good book 5 was. It was like the same type of thing where it's very much set up for a new arc as book 1 was, but then it just was really, really good, really well told story. So I'm very happy and excited to be continuing with Rune Lords. Okay, so that is my ongoing series. I have one series listed as I guess 2 technically, because Rune Lords is also on this one. But the series to finish before the end of the year, the one would be Rune Lords, like I just mentioned, and then the other is Lightbringer. I've already explained the situation with Lightbringer, so I don't need to go through it again, but I would love to finish Lightbringer this year, if at all possible, and that totally depends on what happens with audiobooks. Then so that's 2 of the categories. The next category I have is a new category that I have decided to put on here, and that's a series I'd like to start this year. I only have 2 series listed under this category. The first one is The Pendragon Cycle by Stephen R. Lawhead, first book being Taliesin. I have books 2 and I don't remember if I have Arthur or Pendragon. Anyways, I have 2 of the books in the series. I have book 1 and then I have book 3 or 4. I can't remember which. And I'm very excited to read this. I love Arthurian literature most of the time. The Once and Future King's not working for me. But I love Arthurian literature and I'm very excited to read this series. So that's one of them. And I would love to read that entire series this year. I don't know that that's going to happen, but that's a goal that I do have. The other one is the Red Rising series, or at least the first trilogy. I would love to get through Red Rising, Golden Sun, and Morning Star in 2023, and we'll see if I love it and if I want to continue on after that. I do have all 3 of the Red Rising trilogy. I don't have any beyond that, but I would like to read that series as well this year. I guess I have it marked as series I'd like to start this year. So both of that's good. Series I'm caught up on. This is another new category that I've added, and these are books that I have read every book that is out in the series, and I have a caveat for a couple of them. Yes, okay, so the series I'm caught up on. The first one is Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. That starts with The Way of Kings, then we have Words of Radiance, Oathbringer, and Rhythm of War, and then book 5 is not yet out. There are 2 novellas in this series, Edge Dancer and Dawnshard? I don't know, but there are 2 novellas in the series. I have read Edge Dancer. I haven't read the other novella that's in the Stormlight Archive. So that's kind of the caveat. I've read the 4 main books in the series. I haven't read one of the 2 novellas that are currently out. Next one, Calculated by Nova McBee. I have read the 3 books that are currently out in the series. The 4th book, Liberated, is coming out sometime in the end of summer, and I haven't read that one yet, obviously, because it's not out yet, but I will definitely. That'll be like a day 1 as soon as it's released, or if I can pre-order it, I'll pre-order it, but I've been listening to the audiobooks for those as well, so we'll see how that works. But anyways, I'm going to be reading that as soon as I possibly can, because I love this series so much. And book 4, I believe, is supposed to be the end of the series. Book 3 was supposed to be the end of the series, but then in the middle of writing book 2, Nova McBee was like, I have a 4th story to tell, so we'll get at least 1 more book from that series as well. Children of the Consortium, where's that book? So this is another one. This is recorded by Kathy McCrum, and the sequel is Aberration. Beautiful covers. That's honestly what got me interested in reading the book, is just how gorgeous the cover for book 1 was. And so I read Recorder, and I really liked Recorder. It's one of those characters that I relate to more than just about any other character I've ever read. And so I've loved this series so far. I've read books 1 and 2. Book 3 is not yet out. I don't know when it's going to be out, or if it's going to be out anytime soon even. Like, I really know nothing about book 3 in the series, other than that there is supposed to be a book 3, because book 2 was not the ending of the series. Anyways, that's another one that I'm fully caught up on and that I will be reading more of when I can. The Clatian Saga. So the Clatian Saga by Andrew D. Meredith. This is Deathless Beast. Is book 1. It's actually volume 1, I guess, because it's a bind-up, not bind-up, but it contains the first 2 or 3 stories that he wrote for Clatia, for the Clatian Saga, and then he republished them, re-edited. I don't know the whole situation exactly, but anyways, Clatian Saga is Deathless Beast is volume 1 of the Clatian Saga. I have read Deathless Beast and I have read Bone Shroud. Those are the 2 volumes that are out currently. Volume 3 is, I believe, supposed to come out sometime this year, and I'm very excited for that one as well. The Lawful Times by Daniel B. Green. Of course, that's the booktuber, massive, huge booktuber. He's started his writing career now. Breach of Peace is the first book in the Lawful Times series. Rebel's Creed is the second book in the Lawful Times series. I have read both of them. This is one that I don't know if I will be continuing the series. I may continue Lawful Times just so I can finish out the series, but I don't love the Grimdark. I'm finding that Grimdark just probably isn't for me. So that's one aspect of this. We will see if I continue on with the series or not. I'm thinking I might finish Lawful Times at least, and then we'll see if I just really want to read his main series or not that comes out after Lawful Times. I don't know, but that's one that I am currently caught up on as well. Then we've got The Awakening by Jonathan Renshaw. So book 1 is Dawn of Wonder. I love Dawn of Wonder, and I'm literally just sitting here waiting for book 2 to come out, because he's got what's the situation? I think he wrote book 2, but then he had to split book 2 into 2 books, and so he's got book 2 and 3 written basically, and he's waiting now to get them published. Essentially, they're with his editor or with his publisher or something like that, and he's just waiting to get them published, waiting to get them out to us. So I'm very excited for book 3 whenever, or book 2 whenever it comes out, book 3 as well, but of course book 2 first. And the last series in this series I'm caught up on is The Wars of Wrath by Anonymous. So Gurzel is book 1, Bat and Hill is book 2. Book 3 is not yet out. I was hoping that it would be out by now, but it's not. That's alright. I will continue to wait for it, and as soon as it comes out I will read it. I did get the opportunity to read the prologue for book 3, and it's an interesting prologue. There's going to be some interesting things going on in book 3, as there has been with the other books in the series. And I love the fact that they're like 250, 300 page books, which is fairly short for a fantasy novel, especially nowadays, in a self-published one. And so I'm very excited to continue with this series as well. So I just realized that there's another series that I belongs in my series I'm caught up on category, and that is I don't know what the series is going to be called, but it's book 1 is Gawain by J.P. Harker. This is an Arthurian literature series following a specific character prominent in the Arthurian literature stories. So Gawain, Lancelot, who knows who's going to be next. But I loved book 1 quite a bit, so I want to continue on with this series as well whenever book 2 comes out, which I don't know when that will be. Okay, so that's the end of the series I'm caught up on list. Now I have the series I've started, meaning only one book in. There's a couple other ones that I can add to this list, and that's a couple that should have been on the list to begin with, but for some reason I didn't have them there when I did this list in September. Anyways, that's alright. I will start with The Ashes of Averin by Thiago Abdallah. The first book is A Touch of Light, and the second book is A Shade of Madness, and there's a novella in there as well. I have read A Touch of Light, and I really want to continue on, but I haven't yet. I kind of need to reread A Touch of Light because I think that I could use the reread to better understand what I'm getting into with book 2, but I haven't done that yet. The prequel is A Prelude to Ashes, and that's the novella as a prequel. Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is another one that should have been on here already, but it wasn't, and this is a sci-fi series. I've read book 1. I haven't continued on yet because I don't have book 2 or 3 or 4. And then there's the what is it? I don't know, there's another offshoot series that is co-written with Brandon Sanderson and another author. Anyways, I have not continued on with this series yet. I will at some point. Book 2 is Starsight. Book 3 is Cytonic, and I don't remember what book 4 is called. I don't know if book 4 is even out yet. I don't think it is. I think that's sometime later this year, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, that's alright. We will continue on with this list. The Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries by Patricia D. Meredith. I do own the book 1 physically. I don't have it with me, so we'll just have to have a picture. But anyways, this is a historical fiction mystery series set in Spokane, Washington. And I love book 1. I will be continuing book 2 at some point, but I don't have it yet. I haven't read it yet. Next series is The Leatherstocking Tales by James Fenimore Cooper, the first book, which is kind of a prequel because it was written after all the other books in the series, but that's The Deerslayer. The main book that everybody knows in the series is The Last of the Mohicans. I have read The Deerslayer, so I will be continuing on with the series at some point. I really, really want to read Last of the Mohicans. Protectors of Pratani by Mike Molman. This is a series where I could have this as a ongoing series because I have read 2 books in the series. One of them is kind of a side. It's not the main series. It's a 1.5 is what it's called. And so anyways, Protectors of Pratani book 1 is Becoming a Druid. Book 2 is To Speak with Elders, and then book 1.5 is Sins and Sorrows. And it's 2 short story, or not short stories, but it's 2 basically novella-length stories combined into one novel that bridge some gaps and fill in some holes in the world that needed filling probably before you read book 2 or something along those lines, so you can have the information that is needed. Anyways, I have read books 1 and 1.5, and I will continue on with the series with book 2 at some point. I don't know when. I don't even know if it's out yet. It might be. That's another question that I should look at. So that may be one that a series that I'm caught up on. No, it is. Book 2 is out. Book 3 is the one that's, I think, supposed to be coming out sometime. Threadlight by Zach Gargile. This is one that I haven't continued with. I did back the Kickstarter for the Omnibus leather-bound edition. That looks absolutely gorgeous. I'm hoping that I love the series as much as the book is pretty. So we will see about that, but I haven't continued on with that series yet. Then His Dark Materials by Phil Pullman, I haven't continued on. Dune, I haven't continued on. I have pictures that I could hold up. Dune, I haven't continued on with. The Weaver Trilogy by Lindsay A. Franklin, I haven't continued on with. We have book 1 and book 2, which is, book 1 is the story Peddler, book 2 is the story Raider, and book 3 is, what is book 3 called? Story Hunter? Yeah. Book 3 is The Story Hunter. All 3 books in the series are out. It is a trilogy. I have not continued on with it. This is an interesting series because I loved the magic system of book 1, but I didn't care for the writing of it. I wasn't the target audience for the writing, but I do want to reread this book so that I can read book 2, because this is one of my all-time favorite magic systems in any fantasy series or book that I've ever read, and so I want to continue on with it and see if I can love book 2 more than I liked book 1. We will see about that. I will continue on with that series at some point, though. Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. There's like 5 books in this series or something like that. I don't know how many. Well, there's Castle in the Air is one of the books in the series. Those are the only 2 that I know for sure are part of the series. But there's 4 or 5 books in this series as well, and that I will be reading at some point, because I did like book 1 enough to continue on with. I just haven't continued on with the series yet. The last book is The Ruritanian Romances by Anthony Hope. So The Prisoner of Zenda, Rupert of Hentzau, and then, what is the 3rd book? I can't remember what the 3rd book in the series is titled. But there's a 3rd book in this series that I will be reading at some point as well. And I did like The Prisoner of Zenda. It was like a Three Musketeers light almost, where it was just not as complex, but it was the same style of story, the same writing, very similar writing style, very similar setting, very similar time period, stuff like that. So just lots of similarities between Prisoner of Zenda and Three Musketeers or Alexander Dumas' writing, and I like that. I do want to continue with it. I just haven't done it yet, and I don't know when I will. It's a classic, and it's kind of one that takes a bit more to read than, bit more concentration and thought, brain power to read than some of these other books that I have, and that's good. That's both good and bad, because it means I don't want to read it as much, or I don't. It's not one that just is constantly yelling at me, okay, read the next book, but it is one that I do want to read, continue on with the series at some point. So that is my series check-in for May 2023. This video could very possibly come out in early June. I have to see. I think it does. Maybe not. I don't know. But either way, thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday. We have social medias linked in the description down below, and we will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.